My friends left me out of their wedding, sent a last-minute invite to cover their tracks, and now they're making me look like the bad guy for not showing up. My friend Greg, 28 male, in my circle of friends met Shannon, 28 female, about 5 years ago and they immediately hit it off. Everybody instantly fell in love with Shannon because she's friendly and really fun to hang out with. They were everybody's favorite couple and really made our hangouts much more fun. We all knew they were perfect for each other. They both made our crew that much better. The engagement was expected but much welcome news. Our friend circle was buzzing about the inevitable wedding. Then the invitations went out. You know those save the date magnets that people send out? Well, it really sucked seeing them on everybody else's fridge when I visited friends knowing I didn't get one and wasn't invited. Feeling left out really sucks. But it gets worse. I completely understand how stressful wedding planning is and I believe nobody should feel that they have to invite people they don't want to their wedding. It's their day and their ceremony and they shouldn't have to have people there who they don't want there. I didn't cause a fuss or express to anyone that I was hurt that I felt excluded from the wedding and by extension, excluded from the group. I didn't want to be looked on in an even worse way that I feel I was apparently being looked at. But one friend actually stood up for me. When their wedding came up in conversation and people talked about booking flights and rooms, destination wedding in New York City, eventually I was asked if I booked yet. I said, me and my girlfriend, weren't invited. Nobody could believe it but I insisted that I wasn't upset because I know how situations like this can go. I didn't want to cause trouble because then the happy couple might resent me. Then I'd be the bad guy. I heard through other friends that my friend Tracy thought it was really messed up that I wasn't invited. She and I never spoke of how I wasn't invited to the wedding but she really felt a certain way about it. So a month before the destination wedding, I got a text from Greg basically saying sorry for forgetting to send an invite but that they would love to have us come to the wedding. It was way too late at that point for me. I couldn't get away from my job and I didn't have a chance to put money aside for a year for an expensive New York City destination wedding like everyone else did. I didn't even get a save the date. Every flight and hotel, no rooms where everyone else was staying, obviously. Too late for that, was unaffordable for me. I texted him back that I couldn't make it. The wedding came and went and I felt bad about everything. I saw the Facebook pictures of my friends all having the time of their lives. It looked like a great wedding. There's even a picture of just the group of friends labeled the crew. I don't think I've ever felt so left out honestly. It really made me feel worthless and unwanted. So naturally the typical thoughts surfaced. They don't like you. They think you're annoying. They think you're a jerk. If you can't identify the schmuck in a group of friends, that means you're it. They think you try way too hard to be nice and think you're a phony. Then as if it couldn't get any worse, Shannon messaged me on Facebook asking why I didn't RSVP and said they missed me at the wedding. RSVP? Doesn't one have to be invited in order to RSVP? Everybody got a year to prepare between getting save the dates and actual wedding invitations. I got a text message a month before the wedding. Just as I feared, I'm being made out to be the bad guy and I even made a point to keep my feelings to myself and play it cool. But as usual I didn't say this to her because I know how I would end up looking. I actually apologized for. I don't even know why. But I made a point to mention how I spoke with Greg about it. I also made sure to compliment the wedding pictures and say it looked like fun. I did everything I could in that conversation to make it easier on her and of course now I feel like a total schmuck. That was this past summer and I haven't seen them since. I feel like that's it for me in the group now. I see some of the friends in our group every now and then but everything feels different now. None of them even responded to my birthday party Facebook invite this month. I feel like things are being said behind the scenes and I feel completely out of the loop. It felt like a passive-aggressive message that maybe Greg and Shannon never actually liked me. My fiancée gets along great with Shannon and she's just confused. Seeing her confusion just makes my heart break even more because she's a sweetheart who's never offended anybody in her life. I wish I could break it to her that I'm just the guy in the group that Greg and Shannon think sucks but I don't know how and I feel like a complete loser who deserves this. I'll always appreciate Tracy for sticking up for me. She may never know how awesome it feels hearing about how she told everybody it was messed up that I was left out. I haven't even spoken to her about how the whole thing made me feel, or anybody for that matter. Reddit, you are the first to hear about it, because I didn't want it to appear like I am making a stink and become even more disliked. This whole thing just freaking sucks. I feel like I don't have friends anymore. And to make it worse, soon I'll have a wedding of my own and I'm afraid I won't have any friends there, except for Tracy of course. How am I supposed to handle who I invite so it doesn't seem like I'm leaving people out for petty revenge? How the heck do I navigate a toxic situation that I had no hand in creating? I still feel like I'm in the dark or could be overreacting. What the hell? Relevant comment, that totally sucks. I would be hurt too. Do you think maybe Greg was in charge of sending invites to his friends and forgot? Or it got lost in the mail? I had an invite get returned to me 1 month after I sent it, but thankfully I'd sent a save the date, and sent my invite super early so it ended up being fine, but if I hadn't one of my cousins might have incorrectly thought she was excluded. It sounds like Shannon, at least, thought you were sent an invite if she was upset you didn't RSVP. You actually did RSVP by texting Greg back, but it sounds like she thought you'd been sent an RSVP response card. OP, yeah it could just be a simple misunderstanding but word seemed to get around early that I didn't get a save the date and even later didn't get an invite either. Tracy especially seemed to make sure everybody was aware that she wasn't happy about my exclusion. The other friends I spoke to didn't even suggest that it could have been a mistake, almost like they knew something I didn't but didn't feel comfortable saying it. Only one person even spoke up on my behalf. Mini update 3 days later, I took everyone's advice and brought it up with Tracy. She just confirmed that Shannon was full of crap when she asked me why she didn't get my RSVP and wanted to absolve herself of guilt. I'm not sure if they forgot or if I just wasn't invited yet, but Tracy said we'd talk about it more tonight when she gets out of work. Final update later that day, I spoke about it in depth with Tracy. It turns out Greg's best man, someone who was never in the gang but grew up with Greg, always hated me and Greg thinks I'm annoying. Shannon later felt bad, so they chose not to invite me and pressured him to invite me over text knowing I wouldn't be able to make it. Also, it wasn't only Tracy who thought it was wrong that I didn't get an invite, and the chatter is what made Shannon ask me why I didn't RSVP, to make it seem like my invite was lost in the mail. It feels better knowing this because, like I said, they don't have to have people they don't want at their wedding. But knowing Greg doesn't like me hurts because I always thought we were friends. Turns out he's the phony. Unfortunately, everybody else, except for Tracy and a few others, like Greg more than me, so they kind of felt like they had to choose a side after Tracy brought up why I didn't get invited. Lots of people are feeling guilty about this, apparently. They still felt like they had to choose a side for whatever reason. Probably because most of them went to high school with Greg. Oh well. That's life. Thanks for the advice about being more assertive. Those of you polite about it were very helpful. Thanks. Relevant comments. Commenter number 1. Yeah, you don't need those two-faced jerks in your life. Congratulations on finding out before they borrowed money from you. When they get divorced, you can reach out to Greg and tell him that he deserves it. OP, it's funny you bring up borrowing money because they're the type who always want to split the check when they order the most expensive crap and always say, I'll get you back. And I don't trust Venmo. I'll just give you cash when I go to the ATM, and then they never do. On the plus side, I don't have to pay for part of their steak and lobster dinners anymore. Commenter number 2, will you invite Greg, Shannon and the best man to his wedding? OP, nah, I don't think it would be right to force anybody to choose sides because that feels inappropriate to do to friends. I think everybody who stood up for me gets an invite. Greg can have his best man and be the cynical bastards they are together. Honestly, nobody really likes the best man all that much because he's always acted like an obnoxious jerk when he's been around us. They can have each other. Commenter number 3, in this situation you aren't the bad guy from my perspective, and to be honest, a destination wedding is a jerk move on your friend's part. The sheer inconvenience of one is like jerk move supreme, especially the fact they chose NYC, what the heck. Plus some people turn into assholes after marriage, and statistically speaking, your married male friend is going to be spending much time with his wife now than his friends. In some ways marriage is like high school, you go to it with your friends for a little while, then you start to drift away from another by barely communicating. OP, Shannon is from up there and she wanted to be closer to her family. Yeah, it turns out they didn't want me there and felt pressured once some of my friends realized. I guess it was easier to make the decision when it was just the two of them and they lost confidence in the choice when people found out.